3 months after the battle for Earth, the Orcs ship New Horizon dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Proxima Centauri system. Captain Lisa Park, formerly a research scientist and now the colony leader of 50,000 refugees, watched through the observation deck as the red dwarf star came into view. "Sensor sweep shows 2 potentially habitable worlds," reported the ship's navigator, Commander Thomas Wright. "But I'm also detecting artificial structures in the system. We're not alone." Park felt her heart sink. The Ark fleet had scattered across the galaxy to avoid the Hive threat, but if they encountered other hostile alien species, humanity's chances of survival would be even slimmer. "What kind of structures?" "Orbital installations around the outer planet," Wright replied. "They appear to be mining operations. And Captain, I'm detecting energy signatures that match the solar collection technology from the destroyed Earth platforms." Park studied the sensor readings with growing confusion. The technology was clearly artificial, but it bore striking similarities to human solar energy systems. "Could there be other human survivors out here?" "Unknown," Wright said. "But we're receiving a transmission. It's coming from the mining stations." The communication that came through the ship's speakers was unlike anything Park had expected. The voice was deep and guttural, speaking in a language that seemed to mix human standard with something far more ancient. "Human vessel, this is Mining Station Keth 7 of the Free Orc Collective. We detect your ships bear the mark of Earth's refugees. We offer sanctuary in exchange for knowledge of the Hive threat." Park felt a chill run down her spine. Orcs were supposed to be a conquered species, enslaved by the intergalactic empire for centuries. But the transmission suggested an independent Orc civilization that had not only survived but thrived in the outer regions of the galaxy. "This is Captain Lisa Park of the human Ark ship New Horizon. We're refugees from Earth, seeking to establish a new colony." "What is the Free Orc Collective?" The response came quickly. "We are the children of the last clan, the Orcs who escaped the Empire's conquest. We have built a new civilization in the Dark World regions, and we have been monitoring the Hive's expansion. Your species may be our allies in the coming war." Park looked at her senior staff, seeing her own amazement reflected in their faces. The idea of an alliance with an alien species was both terrifying and hopeful. If the Orcs were truly independent of the Empire, they might be humanity's best hope for survival. "We request permission to approach your mining stations," Park transmitted. "We're willing to share our knowledge of the Hive in exchange for safe passage." "Granted," came the reply. "But be warned, the Empire has been expanding its reach into this sector. We may all be forced to fight sooner than we hoped." As the New Horizon approached the Orc mining stations, Park marveled at the technology she saw. The installations were massive, their solar collectors far more advanced than anything humanity had developed. But more importantly, they were clearly designed for long-term operation, suggesting that the Orcs had been planning for interstellar colonization for generations. "Captain," reported the ship's xenobiologist, Dr. Sarah Chin, no relation to Admiral Chin. "The Orc stations are using a form of solar energy collection that's incredibly efficient. They're harvesting energy from the red dwarf star and converting it directly into usable power. That could be exactly what we need," Park realized. "Our own solar systems were designed for Earth's sun. We'll need to adapt them for different stellar environments." The docking procedure was unlike anything in human experience. The Orc station's docking bay was massive, clearly designed for ships much larger than the New Horizon. As the airlock opened, Park got her first glimpse of the aliens who might become humanity's allies. The Orc who greeted them was unlike the savage stereotypes from Imperial propaganda. Commander Threekle was tall and dignified, his green skin bearing the scars of many battles but his eyes filled with intelligence and compassion. "Captain Park," he said in accented but clear human standard. "Welcome to Mining Station Keth 7. I am Commander Threekle, military liaison for the Free Orc Collective. We have much to discuss." As they walked through the station's corridors, Park was amazed by what she saw. The Orc technology was clearly advanced, but it was also distinctly different from both human and Imperial designs. The walls were covered with organic curves and flowing lines that suggested a civilization that had learned to work with nature rather than against it. "Your technology is remarkable," Park observed. "How did you develop such advanced solar energy systems?" "We have had centuries to perfect them," Threeko replied. "When the Empire enslaved our people, those who escaped were forced to survive in the harshest regions of space. We learned to harvest energy from dying stars, to build habitats in the void between worlds. We became a civilization of the darkness." They entered a vast chamber that served as the station's command center. The walls were covered with displays showing the positions of Orc settlements throughout the galaxy, and Park was stunned by the scale of what she saw. "There are thousands of Orc worlds," she breathed. "The Empire claimed your people were nearly extinct." "The Empire has always been fond of lies," Threeko said grimly. "They enslaved billions of our people, but millions more escaped to the Dark World regions. We have been building our strength, waiting for the right moment to strike back. And now the Hive threatens all of us," Park added. "What do you know about their capabilities?" Threeko activated a holographic display that showed the Hive's expansion through the galaxy. "They have consumed 17 star systems in the past year. Each conquest makes them stronger, more adaptable. But we have learned something important. They are vulnerable to certain forms of solar energy, particularly when it's focused through organic crystals." Park felt a spark of hope. "We discovered something similar during the battle for Earth. Our solar energy pulse disrupted their biomechanical systems. Then we may have found a weapon that can hurt them," Threeko said. "But we will need to work together. Neither our species can face the Hive alone." As they discussed the possibilities of an alliance, Park found herself thinking about the ironies of their situation. Humanity had fled Earth to escape the Hive, only to discover that their potential salvation lay with a species that the Empire had tried to destroy. "Commander," she said, "what about the Empire? If we form an alliance, won't they see us as rebels?" Threeko's expression darkened. "The Empire is already mobilizing against us. They fear that the Orc rebellion will inspire other subject species to rise up. But the Hive threat has given us a common enemy. Even the Empire may be forced to accept our alliance. Or they may decide to eliminate us all," Park pointed out. "Perhaps," Threeko agreed. "But we have survived Imperial oppression for centuries. We will survive this as well." As their discussion continued, Park realized that the encounter with the Free Orc Collective had changed everything. Humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy, and their fight for survival had become part of a larger conflict between the forces of freedom and oppression. "Commander," she said, "I propose a formal alliance between the human Ark fleet and the Free Orc Collective. Together, we might be able to stop the Hive and create a new galactic order." Threeko studied her face for a long moment, then extended his massive hand. "Agreed, Captain Park. Let us build a future that neither the Empire nor the Hive can destroy." As they shook hands, Park felt a surge of hope. The alliance between humans and Orcs was just the beginning. If they could unite the galaxy's free peoples against the twin threats of the Empire and the Hive, they might be able to create a civilization based on cooperation rather than conquest. The war for the galaxy's future was about to begin. 6 months after the formation of the Human-Orc Alliance, the modified mining station New Keth had become a hub of activity in the Proxima Centauri system. Captain Park watched from the observation deck as human and Orc engineers worked together to construct new solar collection arrays, their combined expertise creating technology that neither species could have developed alone. "The efficiency improvements are remarkable," reported Dr. Chin, studying the energy output readings. "By combining human quantum focusing techniques with Orc organic crystal technology, we've increased power generation by 400%. Park nodded, feeling a sense of pride in what they had accomplished. The alliance had exceeded all expectations, with both species learning from each other at an unprecedented rate. But their success had also attracted unwanted attention. "Captain," called Commander Wright from the communications station, "we're receiving a transmission from the outer system. It's an Imperial patrol fleet, and they're demanding to speak with the colony commander." Park felt her stomach tighten. The Empire had found them faster than expected, and their small fleet of converted mining ships would be no match for Imperial military vessels. "Put them through," she ordered. The image that appeared on the main screen was that of Captain Marcus Valerius, an Imperial officer whose aristocratic features were marked by years of service on the galactic frontier. His expression was cold and professional, but Park could see the curiosity in his eyes. "This is Captain Valerius of the Imperial cruiser Dominator," he began. "You are in violation of Imperial law by providing aid and comfort to rebel Orc forces. Surrender immediately or face the consequences." "This is Captain Park of the human colony ship New Horizon," Park replied. "We're refugees from Earth, seeking to establish a peaceful settlement. We're not rebels." "Perhaps not," Valerius conceded. "But you are harboring known terrorists. The Orc mining station Keth 7 is on the Empire's list of rebel installations. You will either surrender the Orc leadership or be classified as enemy combatants." Park looked at Commander Threekle, who had joined her on the bridge. The Orc's expression was grim but determined. "Captain," he said quietly, "we cannot allow the Empire to capture this station. Too many lives depend on our work here." "I understand," Park replied. Then to Valerius, "Captain, we're willing to negotiate. Perhaps we can reach some kind of accommodation." Valerius's expression softened slightly. "I'm listening. What if we could provide you with information about the Hive threat? We've encountered them directly, and we know their capabilities. That information could be valuable to the Empire." "The Hive is a known threat," Valerius replied. "But intel suggests they're contained in the Outer Rim. What makes you think they're relevant to Imperial interests?" Park exchanged a glance with Threekle, then activated the holographic display. "Because they're not contained. They consumed Earth 3 months ago, and they're expanding at an exponential rate. At their current pace, they'll reach the Imperial core worlds within a year." Valerius's face paled as he studied the data. This is impossible. Earth was supposed to be protected by the most advanced defense systems in the galaxy. "The Hive adapts," Park explained. "They learn from every encounter, improving their technology in real time. Conventional weapons are useless against them. But we've discovered a weakness. They're vulnerable to certain forms of solar energy." "What kind of weakness?" "Their biomechanical systems can be disrupted by concentrated solar radiation, particularly when it's focused through organic crystals. The Orc technology here might be the key to stopping them." Valerius was silent for a long moment, his mind clearly racing through the implications. "If what you're saying is true, then the Empire needs this technology more than it needs to enforce anti-rebellion laws." "Exactly," Park said. "We propose a temporary ceasefire. Give us time to develop anti-hive weapons, and we'll share the technology with the Empire." "I don't have the authority to make such agreements," Valerius said. "But I can relay your proposal to Imperial Command. In the meantime, I'm declaring this system under Imperial protection." As the transmission ended, Park felt a mixture of relief and concern. The immediate threat had passed, but they were now under Imperial oversight. The alliance with the Orcs would be tested in ways they hadn't expected. "Captain," Threekle said, "my people have dealt with the Empire for centuries. They will honor their agreements only as long as it serves their interests." "I understand," Park replied. "But we need time to develop the anti-hive weapons. If the Empire can give us that time, we'll take it." Over the following weeks, the mining station was transformed into a research facility. Human and Orc scientists worked around the clock to develop new weapon systems based on their understanding of the Hive's weaknesses. The solar energy arrays were modified to focus radiation into concentrated beams, and the organic crystals were grown into targeting systems that could track the Hive's adaptive biomechanical components. But their work was interrupted by an unexpected development. The station's communication array picked up a signal from deep space, a transmission that was clearly artificial but unlike anything they had encountered before. "It's some kind of entertainment broadcast," reported Dr. Chen, studying the signal's structure. "But the content is disturbing." Park activated the main display, and what she saw made her blood run cold. The transmission showed what appeared to be a game show, but the contestants were clearly prisoners from various alien species. They were being forced to compete in degrading and dangerous competitions for the amusement of an unseen audience. "It's a comic station," Threekle said grimly. "The Empire operates these platforms throughout the galaxy, using prisoners and slaves as entertainment for the core worlds." "That's barbaric," Park said, watching as an Orc prisoner was forced to perform humiliating tasks for the amusement of the audience. "It's also a recruitment tool," Threekle continued. "The Empire uses these broadcasts to demoralize subject species and demonstrate the futility of resistance." As they watched, Park realized that the broadcast was coming from somewhere nearby, possibly even from the Imperial patrol fleet that was supposed to be protecting them. "Commander Wright, can you trace the source of this signal?" "Working on it," Wright replied. "The transmission is definitely coming from the Imperial fleet, but it's being broadcast on a wideband frequency. They want it to be seen." Park felt a surge of anger. Captain Valerius had promised Imperial protection, but his fleet was simultaneously broadcasting propaganda designed to demoralize the very people they were supposed to be protecting. "Threekle," she said, "is there any way to interfere with this broadcast?" "Perhaps," the Orc commander replied. "Our solar energy arrays could generate enough interference to disrupt the signal. But that would reveal our true capabilities to the Empire." "Do it," Park ordered. "I won't stand by while innocent people are tortured for entertainment." The station's solar arrays rotated to face the Imperial fleet, their collectors modified to broadcast interference rather than collect energy. The comic station's signal began to break up, its degrading content replaced by static. "Captain Park," came Captain Valerius's voice over the communication system. "You are interfering with authorized Imperial broadcasts. Cease immediately." "Authorized torture," Park replied. "I don't think so. The comic stations serve a vital function in maintaining order among the subject species," Valerius said. "Your interference is an act of rebellion." "Then I guess we're rebels," Park said. "But we're rebels with a weapon that can stop the hive. Do you really want to make us your enemies?" The standoff continued for several tense minutes before Valerius finally responded. "Very well. The comic station broadcasts will be suspended while we're in this system. But don't mistake this for weakness. The Empire remembers its enemies." As the Imperial fleet moved to a more distant orbit, Park realized that the alliance with the Orcs had forced humanity to choose sides in a conflict that was larger than the hive threat. They were no longer just refugees seeking a new home. They were participants in a galactic struggle between freedom and oppression. "We've crossed a line," she told Threekle. "There's no going back now." "There never was," the Orc commander replied. "The Empire doesn't forgive, and it doesn't forget. But neither do we." As they returned to their work on the anti-hive weapons, Park found herself thinking about the broadcast they had disrupted. Somewhere in the galaxy, prisoners were being tortured for entertainment, and entire species were being ground down by Imperial oppression. The fight against the hive was important, but it was only part of a larger struggle. The alliance between humans and Orcs was about to become something more, a rebellion that would challenge the very foundations of galactic civilization. The breakthrough came 3 weeks later, as human and Orc scientists worked together in the modified research laboratories of Mining Station Keth 7. Dr. Chen stood before a holographic display showing the molecular structure of the new weapon system, her excitement barely contained. "We've done it," she announced to the assembled team. "The Solar Lance is ready for testing." The weapon was a marvel of hybrid technology, combining human quantum-focusing techniques with Orc organic crystal matrices. It could concentrate stellar energy into a beam capable of disrupting the hive's biomechanical systems over vast distances. "The theoretical range is impressive," observed Dr. Kurak, the Orc chief scientist. "But we need to test it against actual hive technology to be certain of its effectiveness." Park studied the weapon schematics, her mind racing through the implications. If the Solar Lance worked as designed, it could give them a significant advantage against the hive. But it could also make them targets for both Imperial and hive forces. "We need test subjects," she said. Actual Hive biomechanical components to verify the weapon's effectiveness. That may be possible, Threekle said. Our scouts have reported Hive activity in the nearby Vega system. If we could capture some of their technology. That's too dangerous, Park protested. The Hive adapts to every encounter. If we reveal our capabilities too early, they'll develop countermeasures. Then we test it on Imperial biomechanical systems, Threekle suggested. Their technology is less adaptive, but it uses similar principles. Park felt a chill at the suggestion. Testing their weapon on Imperial technology would be an act of war, crossing a line that could never be uncrossed. But if the weapon was ineffective, they needed to know before the Hive arrived. There's another option, Dr. Chen said quietly. The comic station broadcasts use biomechanical integration technology. If we could access those systems... You want to use the Imperial entertainment platforms as test subjects? Park asked. The prisoners are already being tortured, Chen replied. At least this way, their suffering would serve a purpose. The moral implications were staggering. They would be attacking Imperial facilities, potentially killing innocent people, all to test a weapon that might not even work. But the alternative was to face the Hive unprepared. Captain, Threekle said, my people have been making such choices for centuries. Sometimes survival requires actions that would be unthinkable in peacetime. Park looked at the weapon schematics, then at the faces of her team. They were all refugees, all survivors of the Hive's destruction of Earth. They had already lost everything once. They couldn't afford to lose again. We'll target the comic station's biomechanical systems, she decided. But we'll do everything possible to avoid civilian casualties. The plan was developed over the following days. The solar lance would be deployed from the mining station's primary array, targeting the comic station's entertainment systems. If the weapon worked, it would disrupt the biomechanical integration technology, freeing the prisoners without killing them. The Imperial fleet will respond immediately, Wright warned. We'll have maybe minutes before they launch a full assault. Then we'll have to be ready, Park replied. All ships prepare for combat. As the solar lance charged up, Park found herself thinking about the journey that had brought them to this point. 6 months ago, they had been refugees seeking a new home. Now they were rebels preparing to attack the very empire that had promised them protection. Solar lance at full power, reported Dr. Chen. Targeting the comic station's primary integration systems. Fire, Park ordered. The beam that erupted from the mining station's solar arrays was unlike anything in human experience. It was pure concentrated starlight, focused through organic crystals into a weapon that could disrupt the fundamental bonds between organic and mechanical systems. The comic station's entertainment broadcasts cut off immediately as the beam struck their biomechanical integration systems. The prisoners who had been forced to participate in the degrading shows were suddenly free, their neural links severed by the weapon's energy. Direct hit, reported the weapons officer. The comic station's systems are completely disrupted. But their victory was short-lived. The Imperial fleet responded with devastating speed, their weapons systems targeting the mining station with lethal precision. Incoming missiles, Wright called out. Multiple contacts, high velocity. All defensive systems online, Park ordered. Return fire with conventional weapons. The battle that followed was brief but intense. The mining station's defenses were no match for the Imperial fleet's military-grade weapons, but the solar lance had proven its effectiveness. The weapon could disrupt biomechanical systems, and that gave them hope. Captain, Threekle reported, we're taking heavy damage. The station's primary systems are failing. Then we evacuate, Park decided. All personnel to the escape pods. We'll regroup at the backup facility. As the mining station died around them, Park felt a mixture of loss and hope. They had lost their primary facility, but they had gained something more valuable, proof that the Hive could be defeated. This is Captain Valerius, came the transmission from the Imperial fleet. You are all under arrest for attacking Imperial installations. Surrender immediately. This is Captain Park, she replied. We're not surrendering. We're going to war. The escape pods launched from the dying mining station, carrying the survivors toward the backup facility that the Orcs had established in the asteroid belt. Behind them, the station exploded in a brilliant flash of light, but the knowledge they had gained would live on. The solar lance worked. The Hive could be defeated. And the alliance between humans and Orcs had become something more than a partnership. It had become a rebellion that would change the galaxy forever. As the escape pods disappeared into the darkness between worlds, Park knew that there was no going back. The die had been cast, and the fate of the galaxy would be decided in the battles to come. The war for freedom had begun. The asteroid belt facility, designated as Haven, had become the nerve center of the growing rebellion. Built inside a hollowed-out asteroid, the base was virtually invisible to Imperial sensors, its organic architecture blending seamlessly with the natural rock formations. Captain Park stood in the command center, watching as representatives from dozens of species arrived to discuss the formation of a united front against both the Empire and the Hive threat. The success of the solar lance had spread throughout the galaxy, inspiring hope among the Empire's subject peoples. The Andromedans have agreed to share their shield technology, reported Commander Wright, updating the intelligence board. And the Centauri Republic is providing quantum processing systems. What about the Zeta Reticulans? Park asked. Their bioengineering expertise could be crucial for understanding the Hive. They're reluctant, Wright replied. They've had bad experiences with collective consciousness entities before. But they're willing to provide technical advisors. Park nodded, understanding their concerns. The Zeta Reticulans had once been conquered by a hive-mind species, and their liberation had come at a terrible cost. They were natural allies, but their fear of collective consciousness made them cautious. Captain, Threekle approached, his massive frame scarred by the recent battle. The Orc clans are mobilizing. We have 300 ships ready for combat, and the number is growing daily. And the Empire's response? They're declaring martial law in the Outer Rim sectors. Threekle replied grimly. Any species that aids the rebellion will be subject to pacification measures. Park felt a chill at the euphemism. Imperial pacification meant the systematic destruction of entire civilizations, a policy that had kept the galaxy under Imperial rule for centuries. But now, for the first time, the subject species had a weapon that could challenge Imperial supremacy. Dr. Chen, she called to the chief scientist. What's the status of the solar lance production? We've managed to build 12 operational units, Chen replied. But we need more organic crystals and quantum focusing arrays. The manufacturing process is incredibly complex. Then we'll have to capture Imperial facilities, Park decided. They have the industrial capacity we need. The plan that emerged from the following days of discussion was audacious in its scope. The rebellion would simultaneously attack Imperial manufacturing centers throughout the galaxy, capturing the resources needed to mass-produce solar lance weapons. It would be a coordinated assault involving dozens of species and hundreds of ships. The risks are enormous, warned Dr. Karak, the Orc scientist. If any of the attacks fail, the Empire will know exactly what we're planning. Then we'll have to make sure they don't fail, Park replied. This is our one chance to level the playing field. As the rebellion prepared for its greatest gamble, disturbing news arrived from the Outer Rim. The Hive had resumed their expansion, consuming 3 more star systems in the past month. Their technology had adapted to counter conventional weapons, and they were now specifically targeting worlds with advanced solar energy systems. They're learning, Park realized. The Hive knows about the solar lance, and they're adapting their strategy. Which means we need to strike now, Threekle said. Before they develop effective countermeasures. The coordinated assault began at 0800 hours, Galactic Standard Time. Across the galaxy, rebel forces struck at Imperial manufacturing centers, their solar lance weapons carving through Imperial defenses with devastating efficiency. Park commanded the attack on the Rigel shipyards, one of the Empire's most important industrial facilities. The massive orbital platforms were heavily defended, but the solar lance weapons made short work of their biomechanical defense systems. Direct hit on the primary manufacturing complex, reported the weapons officer. Their production systems are completely disrupted. But the real prize was the facility's quantum processing arrays, the technology needed to mass-produce solar lance weapons. As Orc boarding parties secured the installations, Park felt a surge of hope. They were actually winning. "Captain," called Wright, "we're receiving reports from the other strike teams. The attacks on Vega Prime and Proxima Station have been successful. But the assault on the Centauri industrial complex has run into heavy resistance." Park studied the tactical display, watching as the battle reports flowed in. Most of the attacks were succeeding, but the Empire's response was swift and brutal. Imperial reinforcements were already moving to counter the rebellion's expansion. "This is Admiral Thorne," came a transmission from the Imperial fleet. "You are all traitors to the Galactic Order. Surrender now, or face the consequences." Park recognized the name. Admiral Thorne was the Empire's most feared military commander, the architect of countless pacification campaigns. If he was personally involved, the rebellion had definitely gotten the Empire's attention. "This is Captain Park of the Free Galaxy Alliance," she replied. "We're not traitors, we're liberators. And we're not surrendering." The response was immediate and devastating. The Imperial fleet opened fire with weapons that Park had never seen before, energy beams that seemed to tear through space itself, creating miniature black holes that consumed everything in their path. "Singularity weapons," Dr. Chen reported, her voice filled with horror. "They're using artificial black holes as weapons. All ships evasive maneuvers," Park ordered. "And prepare the solar lance for maximum power discharge." The battle that followed was the largest space engagement in galactic history. Thousands of ships from dozens of species fought desperately against the Empire's most advanced fleet. The solar lance weapons were effective, but the Empire's new singularity weapons were devastating. "We're losing ships faster than we can replace them," Threeko reported. "The Empire's firepower is too concentrated." "Then we'll have to even the odds," Park replied. "All solar lance units, target the Empire's flagship. Maximum power, synchronized discharge." The combined energy of 12 solar lance weapons focused on Admiral Thorne's dreadnought was a sight to behold. The massive ship's biomechanical systems were completely disrupted, its organic components writhing in agony as the concentrated stellar energy tore through its defenses. But even as the Imperial flagship died, Park knew the victory was temporary. The Empire had vast resources, and they would adapt their tactics to counter the solar lance weapons. The rebellion needed something more than superior firepower, they needed a strategic advantage. "Captain," Dr. Chen called urgently, "I'm detecting massive energy signatures approaching from the outer rim. It's not Imperial, it's something else." Park turned to the long-range sensors, and what she saw made her blood run cold. The distinctive organic curves of hive vessels were approaching the battlefield, their biomechanical hulls pulsing with adaptive energy. "The hive," she whispered. "They're coming to finish what's left of us." As the three-way battle began, Park realized that the galaxy's fate would be decided in the next few hours. The Empire, the Rebellion, and the Hive would clash in a conflict that would determine the future of all life in the galaxy. "All ships," she broadcast to the combined rebel fleet, "prepare for the fight of our lives. This is where we make our stand." The final battle for the galaxy's future was about to begin. The three-way battle in the Rigel system became a maelstrom of destruction as Imperial, Rebel, and Hive forces clashed in the largest space engagement in galactic history. Captain Park watched from the bridge of the commandeered Imperial cruiser Liberation as the organic curves of Hive vessels tore through both Imperial and Rebel ships with equal ferocity. "The Hive isn't discriminating," observed Commander Wright. "They're attacking everyone, Empire and Rebellion alike. Because we're all just resources to them," Park replied grimly. "They don't care about our politics or our wars. They just want to consume everything." The Hive fleet was larger than anyone had expected, hundreds of vessels that had been secretly massed in the outer rim, while the galaxy's attention was focused on the Rebellion. Their biomechanical hulls had adapted to resist both Imperial Singularity weapons and Rebel Solar Lance technology. "Admiral Thorne is hailing us," reported the communications officer. "Emergency frequency." Park hesitated, then accepted the transmission. Thorne's face appeared on the screen, his aristocratic features marked by desperation and something she had never expected to see: fear. "Captain Park," he began, "I'm prepared to offer a temporary ceasefire. The Hive threat supersedes our political differences." "What kind of ceasefire?" Park asked. "Full cooperation against the Hive. Combined fleet operations, shared technology, coordinated strategy. After the Hive is defeated, we can return to our disagreements." Park looked at Threekle, who nodded grimly. The Orc commander understood the implications better than anyone. The Hive represented an existential threat to all life in the galaxy. "Agreed," Park said. "But this doesn't change anything between us and the Empire. Once the Hive is defeated, the rebellion continues." "Understood," Thorne replied. "Transmitting tactical coordination protocols now." As the Imperial and Rebel fleets coordinated their attacks, Park marveled at the irony of the situation. The rebellion had been born from humanity's encounter with the Hive, and now all the galaxy's factions were united against the common threat. "Solar Lance units report ready," announced Dr. Chen. "Combined Imperial Rebel targeting systems online." "Fire!" Park ordered. The coordinated assault was devastating. Imperial Singularity weapons tore through the Hive fleet's outer defenses while Rebel Solar Lance beams disrupted their biomechanical systems. For a moment, it seemed like the combined forces might actually prevail. But the Hive's adaptation was faster than anyone had anticipated. Their organic hulls began to change, developing new defenses against both types of weapons. Within minutes, they were pushing forward again, their adaptive technology turning the tide of battle. "They're learning too fast," Thorne reported. "We need something they haven't seen before." "The asteroid base," Park realized. "Haven isn't just a hideout, it's a weapon." The plan was desperate in its simplicity. The asteroid base contained the rebellion's primary solar lance array, but it could be modified to channel the energy of the system's star itself. It would be a one-shot weapon, but it might be powerful enough to destroy the entire Hive fleet. "The power requirements are staggering," Dr. Chen warned. "We need to overload every solar collector in the system and channel the energy through the asteroid's core. The base would be completely destroyed. Then we evacuate," Park decided. "All personnel to the evacuation ships. We're going to turn Haven into the galaxy's biggest weapon." As the evacuation proceeded, Park found herself thinking about the journey that had brought them to this point. The rebellion had begun as a simple quest for survival, but it had become something much larger, a fight for the very soul of galactic civilization. "Captain," Threekle approached, his massive frame filling the doorway. "The Orc clans are honored to fight beside you. Whatever happens, remember that freedom is worth any sacrifice." "I'll remember," Park replied. "And I'll make sure the galaxy remembers too." The modification of the asteroid base took precious time that they didn't have. The Hive fleet was systematically destroying the combined Imperial Rebel forces, their adaptive technology proving superior to anything the galaxy could field. "Solar channeling array online," reported Dr. Chen from the evacuation ship. "We're drawing power from the entire system. Energy levels are unprecedented." "How long until we can fire?" Park asked. 30 seconds, Chen replied. "But Captain, the energy discharge will be visible from anywhere in the galaxy. Everyone will know what we've done." "Good," Park said. "Let them know that freedom isn't dead." The weapon fired with a brilliance that outshone the system's star. The concentrated energy of an entire solar system, channeled through organic crystals and quantum-focusing arrays, struck the heart of the Hive fleet with devastating effect. The Hive vessels, for all their adaptive capabilities, had no defense against the raw power of a weaponized star. Ship after ship was vaporized in the expanding sphere of stellar energy, their biomechanical systems unable to adapt fast enough to survive. "Direct hit on the Hive command vessel," reported the tactical officer. multiple secondary explosions throughout their fleet. As the energy discharge faded, Park surveyed the aftermath. The Hive fleet was gone, completely destroyed by the most powerful weapon ever deployed in galactic history. But the cost had been enormous. The asteroid base was gone, along with most of the rebellion's manufacturing capacity. "This is Admiral Thorne," came the transmission from the Imperial fleet. "The Hive threat has been neutralized. All rebel forces are ordered to surrender for processing." Park felt a surge of anger. Even after their cooperation against the Hive, the Empire was still determined to crush the rebellion. Some things never changed. "This is Captain Park," she replied. "The rebellion continues. We didn't fight the Hive just to return to Imperial slavery." "Then you've chosen to be enemies of order," Thorne said. "So be it." As the Imperial fleet prepared to attack the surviving rebel forces, Park made a decision that would echo through galactic history. Instead of fighting or fleeing, she broadcast a message on all frequencies, ensuring that every inhabited world in the galaxy would hear her words. "Citizens of the galaxy," she began. "Today we proved that the impossible is possible. We defeated the Hive, the greatest threat our civilization has ever faced. But we didn't do it alone. We did it together, species working with species, putting aside our differences to face a common enemy." She paused, looking at the faces of her crew, humans, orcs, and aliens from a dozen different worlds, all united in their desire for freedom. "The Empire wants you to believe that their rule is necessary, that without their control, the galaxy would collapse into chaos. But we've shown that cooperation is possible without oppression. We've shown that freedom isn't just a dream, it's a reality we can build together." The message spread throughout the galaxy at the speed of light, reaching every world, every species, every individual who had ever dreamed of freedom. The rebellion had become something more than a military campaign, it had become a symbol of hope. "The Solar Lance technology is being transmitted to every world that wants it," Park continued. "The knowledge belongs to all of us. Use it wisely, use it to defend yourselves, and use it to build a better future." As the transmission ended, Park watched the tactical display as hundreds of worlds began to declare their independence from the Empire. The defeat of the Hive had proven that the Empire wasn't invincible, and the knowledge of Solar Lance technology gave the rebel worlds the means to defend themselves. "Captain," Threekle said, "you've started a galactic revolution." "We've started it," Park corrected. "And we're going to finish it." The Liberation and its escort fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying the survivors of the rebellion to new worlds where they could continue the fight. Behind them, the Empire struggled to maintain control as world after world rose in rebellion. The Dark World regions, once the refuge of the desperate and the outcast, had become the birthplace of a new galactic order. The age of Empire was ending, and the age of freedom was about to begin. As the rebel fleet disappeared into the darkness between stars, Park thought about Elena Vasquez, the brilliant scientist whose sacrifice had made this moment possible. She had died fighting the Hive, but her legacy lived on in the freedom that was spreading across the galaxy. The Dark World's dawn was breaking, and nothing would ever be the same.